this and that. You know what it is about the age of spent? Because they play so much words, I don't even know what the fuck anybody's talking about anymore. How can you actually know? How can you make a decision? It's like, you know what I mean? The way that we, like, okay, Planned Parenthood, right? Planned Parenthood is actually for abortions. It's for people who didn't plan shit out. So you don't know if you're pro-choice or you're anti-consequences. The whole shit is...
As a matter of fact, speech may well have been my greatest invention, so...
I don't like words that hide the truth. I don't like words that conceal reality.
Because it takes more than words to understand me, and they don't get to me because I know what they conceal. As a matter of fact, speech may well have been my greatest invention, so...
You didn't say the magic word.
Words, the goblin said.
Some kind of a symbol?
We live in perilous times when it comes to free speech, and the threats are coming from both the left and right.
So we're going to open up those libel laws, folks, and we're going to have people sue you like you never got sued before.
The president has threatened legal action against the media, and progressive activists have used violence to shut down campus speakers they don't like.
Listen. Say your right words, the goblin said.
Please! God damn it!
I don't like words that hide the truth. I don't like words that conceal reality. I don't like euphemisms or euphemistic language. And American English is loaded with euphemisms because Americans have a lot of trouble dealing with reality. Americans have trouble facing the truth. So they invent a kind of a soft language to protect themselves from it. And it gets worse with every generation. For some reason, it just keeps getting worse. I'll give you an example of that. There's a condition in combat. Most people know about it. It's when a fighting person's nervous system has been stressed to its absolute peak and maximum, can't take any more input. The nervous system has either snapped or is about to snap. In the First World War, that condition was called shell shock. Simple, honest, direct language. 2 syllables, shell shock. Almost sounds like the guns themselves. That was 70 years ago. Then a whole generation went by, and the Second World War came along, and the very same combat condition was called battle fatigue. 4 syllables now. Takes a little longer to say. Doesn't seem to hurt as much. Fatigue is a nicer word than shock. Shell shock. Battle fatigue. Then we had the war in Korea, 1950. Madison Avenue was riding high by that time, and the very same combat condition was called operational exhaustion. Hey, we're up to 8 syllables now. And the humanity has been squeezed completely out of the phrase. It's totally sterile now. Operational exhaustion. Sounds like something that might happen to your car. Then, of course, came the war in Vietnam, which has only been over for about 16 or 17 years. And thanks to the lies and deceit surrounding that war, I guess it's no surprise that the very same condition was called post-traumatic stress disorder. Still 8 syllables, but we've added a hyphen. And the pain is completely buried under jargon. Post-traumatic stress disorder. I'll bet you if we'd have still been calling it shell shock, some of those Vietnam veterans might have gotten the attention they needed at the time. I'll bet you that. I'll bet you. But it didn't happen. And one of the reasons is because we were using that soft language, that language that takes the life out of life. And it is a function of time. It does keep getting worse. Give you another example. Sometime during my life, toilet paper became bathroom tissue. I wasn't notified of this. No one asked me if I agreed with it. It just happened. Toilet paper became bathroom tissue. Sneakers became running shoes. False teeth became dental appliances. Medicine became medication. Information became directory assistance. The dump became the landfill. car crashes became automobile accidents. Partly cloudy became partly sunny. Motels became motor lodges. House trailers became mobile homes. Used cars became previously owned transportation. Room service became guest room dining. And constipation became occasional irregularity. When I was a little kid, if I got sick, they wanted me to go to the hospital and see the doctor. Now they want me to go to a health maintenance organization or a wellness center to consult a healthcare delivery professional. Poor people used to live in slums. Now the economically disadvantaged occupy substandard housing in the inner cities. And they're broke. They're broke. They don't have a negative cash flow position. They're fucking broke. Because a lot of them were fired. You know, fired. Management wanted to curtail redundancies in the human resources area. So many people are no longer viable members of the workforce. Smug, greedy, well-fed white people have invented a language to conceal their sins. It's as simple as that. The CIA doesn't kill anybody anymore. They neutralize people. Or they depopulate the area. The government doesn't lie. It engages in disinformation. The Pentagon actually measures nuclear radiation in something they call sunshine units. Israeli murderers are called commandos. Arab commandos are called terrorists. Contra killers are called freedom fighters. Well, if crime fighters fight crime and firefighters fight fire, what do freedom fighters fight? They never mention that part of it to us, do they? Never mention that part of it. And some of this stuff is just silly. We all know that. Like on the airlines, they say they want a pre-board. Well, what the hell is pre-board? What does that mean? To get on before you get on?
This example is that universities, 3 students' unions in the UK have basically said the word woman is offensive because it contains the word man. And they're going to replace it with womexen or whatever you want to call it. I still don't understand it. But I find it perplexing to the extreme that, you know, they are using this phrase on the basis of inclusivity and respect and whatever else, but yet you can barely pronounce it. It's a kind of, to me, it's a tokenistic attempt to try and say down with man because women need to be equal. If you're going to try and level the playing field, you tackle the real issues like pay, like terms and conditions. You give women decent maternity leave, and you don't try and sack them when they're on maternity leave, as often happens in countries. You know, you don't go after this tokenistic nonsense. You know, to say that women, because the word man has the word man in it, it's no longer tolerable. Like, where do you stop? Do you turn around and say, well, we no longer refer to history as history. We say it's her story.
Feminists want to control your language. Feminists want to tell you how to talk. And they're not alone. They're not alone. I'm not picking on the feminists. They got a lot of company in this country. There's a lot of groups, a lot of institutions in this country want to control your language. Tell you what you can say and what you can't say. Government wants to tell you some things you can't say because they're against the law.
Hey guys, welcome back to Now This. Guys is a simple term. It could mean boys, or if you're modern, hip, it means people.
Clear to me that I have an apology to make. Over the years, I have multiple times addressed the people watching my videos as guys. This is misgendering so many people out there watching that aren't guys.
My God, which way did they go? They went that way. Oh, thanks, man.
Feminists want to control your language. Feminists want to tell you how to talk.
Now, there are quite a few things that are on this list, but the first thing that kind of prompted this video is, if you're looking for a house right now, you're trying to buy, you're trying to rent, whatever the case, you might have a hard time seeing the master suite or the master bedroom be referred to as the master suite or the master bedroom, because apparently the term master or the word master is racist. Therefore, the term master is racist. It's
because somebody killed somebody's master. What are you supposed to do when you're touching yourself? You supposed to call it something else? It's no longer masturbation? You see how stupid this shit is?
And the masters of the universe.
Feminists want to control your language. Feminists want to tell you how to talk. And they're not alone. They're not alone. I'm not picking on the feminists. They got a lot of company in this country.
By the power of Grayskull.
It's actually more divisive than it is inclusive, and I think it's just ridiculous.
Stephanie, it's nonsense, isn't it?
I don't think that it's nonsense. I think that it's not for the person. It's like it's not for you to say what is offensive. Like either we say so.
So who gets to decide?
It's okay. I think the people who are affected by stereotypes are the people who get to decide how they feel about that. Someone else, someone white telling me that I shouldn't be offended by these jokes because other black comedians have done it doesn't make sense to me. If other black comedians want to make jokes about black people, that's their right to do that. I don't have to think it's funny.
Wendy, you're beautiful and articulate. It's a pleasure to almost meet you virtually. I think in an era when we see black men disproportionately thrown into the prison system, in the poverty to prison pipeline we have in this country, where the Confederate flag, the symbol of quitting America because you want to keep people as livestock, still flies above the South Carolina Capitol, being offended by an artist's jokes might not be the best channeling of your energies.
They're not alone. They're not alone. I'm not picking on the feminists. They got a lot of company in this country. There's a lot of groups, a lot of institutions in this country want to control your language.
Prince of... I am Adam, Prince of Eternia. I am Adam.
There's a lot of groups, a lot of institutions in this country want to control your language, tell you what you can say and what you can't say. Government wants to tell you some things you can't say because they're against the law, or you can't say this because it's against the regulation, or here's something you can't say because it's a secret. You can't tell him that because he's not cleared to know that. Government wants to control information and control language because that's the way you control thought. And basically that's the game they're in. Same with religion. Religion is nothing but mind control. Religion is just trying to control your mind, control your thoughts. So they're going to tell you some things you shouldn't say because they're sins. And besides telling you things you shouldn't say, religion's going to suggest to you some things you ought to be saying. Here's something you ought to say first thing when you wake up in the morning. Here's something you ought to say just before you go to sleep at night. Here's something we always say on the third Wednesday in April after the first full moon in spring at 4 o'clock when the bells ring. Religion is always suggesting things you ought to be saying. Same with political groups of all kinds. Political activists, anti-bias groups, special interest groups are going to suggest the correct political vocabulary, the way you ought to be saying things, and that's where the feminists come in. As I said, I got nothing against the feminists. In fact, I happen to agree with most of the feminist philosophy I have read. Men are vain, ignorant, greedy, brutal assholes who've just about ruined this planet. Who've just about ruined this planet because they're afraid someone might have a bigger dick out there somewhere.
Speech is only prohibited if it's intended and likely to provoke imminent lawless action.
So if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you?
Testing me for once saying that Islam is, quote, the only religion that acts like the mafia and will kill you if you say the wrong thing or draw the wrong picture. And then 2 jihadists gunned down 12 people in Paris for saying the wrong thing and drawing the wrong picture. You have to tell me, where do I go to protest you? Someone has to check in with the people who tried to have my speech canceled and make sure they made it through okay.
Crip cripples. Simple, honest, direct language. There's no shame attached to the word cripple that I can find in any dictionary. No shame attached to it. In fact, it's a word used in Bible translations. Jesus healed the cripples. Doesn't take 7 words to describe that condition. But we don't have any cripples in this country anymore. We have the physically challenged. Is that a grotesque enough evasion for you? How about differently abled? I've heard them called that, differently abled. You can't even call these people handicapped anymore. They'll say, we're not handicapped, we're handy-capable. These
Thank you. I'm a man of few words. And I'd like to say to all those who never believed in the power of the handicap, there's a new sheriff in town. And this is his badge.
Up in the sky! It's a bird! It's a plane! It's a giant handicap sign!
Listen, I'd love to stay in chat, but there's someone who needs my help. I'll be back. Up and away!
Oh. These poor people have been bullshitted by the system into believing that if you change the name of the condition, somehow you'll change the condition. Well, hey, cousin, doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. We have no more deaf people in this country, hearing impaired. No one's blind anymore, partially sighted or visually impaired. We have no more stupid people. Everybody has a learning disorder. Or he's minimally exceptional. How would you like to be told that about your child? He's minimally exceptional. Oh, thank God for that. Psychologists actually have started calling ugly people those with severe appearance deficits. It's getting so bad that any day now I expect to hear a rape victim referred to as an unwilling sperm recipient. Now I probably got the feminists all pissed off at me because I'm joking about rape. And we have no more old people in this country. No more old people. We shipped them all away, and we brought in these senior citizens. Isn't that a typically American 20th century phrase? Bloodless, lifeless, no pulse in one of them. A senior citizen. But I've accepted that one. I've come to terms with it. I know it's here to stay. We'll never get rid of it. That's what they're going to be called, so I'll relax on that. But the one I do resist, the one I keep resisting, is when they look at an old guy and they'll say, look at him, Dan. He's 90 years young. Imagine the fear of aging that reveals. To not even be able to use the word old to describe someone, to have to use an antonym. And fear of aging is natural, it's universal, isn't it? We all have that. No one wants to get old, no one wants to die, but we do. So we bullshit ourselves. I started bullshitting myself when I got to my 40s. As soon as I was in my 40s, I'd look in the mirror and I'd say, well, I guess I'm getting older. Older sounds a little better than old, doesn't it? Sounds like it might even last a little longer. Bullshit, I'm getting old. And it's okay, because thanks to our fear of death in this country, I won't have to die. I'll pass away.
I'm one of those people that's so smart that I'm uncomfortable in this world. And I'm scared to live. I'm not scared to live, but it's scary out here. God damn. I don't know what you call me. This is a tranny or drag queen, perhaps. Whatever it was, this is definitely a man. And this man was definitely on drugs. I don't know what kind of drugs he's on, but I knew he had too much.
Caitlin, you were fucking awesome tonight. I just want to say that. You were really awesome tonight. But I wouldn't fuck you with Bruce Jenner's dick.
One of which was a very wealthy man that happened to be wearing a dress. I don't know.
a drag queen perhaps, whatever it was, it's definitely a man.
But I wouldn't fuck you with Bruce Jenner's dick. Remember when your picture was on Wheaties boxes back when people could still look at you? Remember when your picture was on Wheaties boxes back when people could still look at you when they eat?
He didn't look good. It's like this, he's like, he looks sick, and all.
Don't tell me 'cause it hurts.
I don't know what it looked like, some kind of gay CPR, just fanning and shit. I saw all this from a distance. Now, I should have minded my own business, but I got curious. I was like, oh. And I went over there. All I said, excuse me, gentlemen, is he okay? And then they looked at me like I was evil. She is fine. I said, excuse me, gentlemen, is he okay? Evil. She is fine. Oh. I'm sorry, I didn't know this is what we were doing. Here's my thing. I would support anybody's right to be whoever they feel like they are inside. I'm your ally in that. However, my question is, to what degree do I have to participate in your self-image? Is it fair that I have to change my whole pronoun game up for this motherfucker? That doesn't make sense. Seriously. If I put on an Argyle sweater and I'm like, hey everybody, I feel like a white guy in this sweater and I want some goddamn respect and a bank loan. That's not gonna work. Give a fuck how I feel, why should I give a fuck how you feel? Nigger is a pronoun. But there was no time for philosophical debate. This was an emergency situation. I said, fine. Sorry, guys. I was just worried because she looks terrible. She just fell off the bench. Appears that her dick is popping out of her dress.
This is Cringer, my fearless friend.
But I wouldn't fuck you with Bruce Jenner's dick.
Twin sister. He-Man's twin sister.
Women, I've noticed that most of these feminists are white, middle-class women. They don't give a shit about black women's problems. They don't care about Latino women. All they're interested in is their own reproductive freedom and their pocketbooks. But when it comes to changing the language, I think they make some good points. Because we do think in language. And so the quality of our thoughts and ideas can only be as good as the quality of our language. So maybe some of this patriarchal shit ought to go away. I think spokesman ought to be spokesperson. I think chairman ought to be chairperson. I think mankind ought to be humankind. But they take it too far. They take themselves too seriously. They exaggerate. They want me to call that thing in the street a personhole cover. I think that's taking it a little bit too far. What would you call a ladies' man? A person's person? That would make a he-man an it person. Little kids would be afraid of the boogie person. They'd look up in the sky and see the person in the moon. Guys would say, come back here and fight like a person, and we'd all sing for It's a Jolly Good Person. That's the kind of thing you would hear on Late Night with David Letterperson. You know what I mean? So I think it's an exaggeration, and I like to piss off any group that takes itself a little bit too seriously. And it does not take a lot of imagination to piss off a feminist. All you gotta do is run into Now Headquarters or Ms. Magazine and say, hey, which one of you cute little cupcakes wants to come home and cook me a nice meal and give me a blowjob? Blowjob! Oh, that pisses them off. You want to piss off a feminist? Call her a cum catcher. That'll get her attention. Ah, don't act disgusted. Don't act disgusted. Half of you are going to go home and go down on each other tonight, remember? If you're willing to swallow cum, let's not make believe something I said was disgusting, okay? Huh? All right. Let's not have a double standard here. One standard will do just fine. Now, speaking of blowjobs, do you know why they call it a blowjob? So it'll sound like it has kind of a work ethic attached to it. Make you feel like you did something useful for the economy. Long as I'm being a complete pig up here, let me ask you guys a question. Let me ask one question of the men. Are you ever able to watch a woman eating a banana and not think about a blowjob? I can't do it, and I know why. I'm a sick, evil fuck. I accept that. But I can't do it. Eating a banana, eating a pickle, licking on an ice cream cone. I'm saying to myself, look at the tongue on her. Wow. So you women, be careful when you're standing out in front of that Haagen-Dazs. Because goddammit, we're watching. And goddammit, we're thinking. Another woman's issue, prostitution. I do not understand why prostitution is illegal. Why should prostitution be illegal? Selling is legal, fucking is legal. Why isn't selling fucking legal? You know, why should it be illegal to sell something that's perfectly legal to give away? I can't follow the logic on that at all. Of all the things you can do to a person, giving someone an orgasm is hardly the worst thing in the world. In the Army, they give you a medal for spraying napalm on people. Civilian life, you go to jail for giving someone an orgasm. Maybe I'm not supposed to understand it.
Is he okay?
I can tell you right now, I have no answer to any of that. Because it takes more than words to understand me, and they don't get to me because I know what they conceal. As a matter of fact, speech may well have been my greatest invention, so just shut up!